Delighted to announce that tonight's show is brought to you by Fantasy Serie A. Head to fantasyserie.com and use your in-game budget to build your ultimate team of Italian football stars in one of the most popular fantasy football games online. You can take on friends, fellow Laziali, or other calcio fans from your country in a selection of leagues throughout the season.
Hello everybody, welcome to Lazio Lounge. Mr. Alistair McKenzie, I don't remember a new season starting like that for Lazio. An incredible victory away against Sampdoria. We have been, from Sunday night till Monday, top of the league in front of clubs like Juventus and Napoli. Great performance from Lazio, but it's hard to believe it, but it's already Derby week. Alistair, how are you feeling?
Well, yeah, kind of mixed emotions, I suppose. Absolutely delighted with how week one has gone. Simone Inzaghi called it the best start he's had as a Lazio coach, and I have to agree with him. But yeah, also the kind of pre-Derby anxiety doesn't take very long to set in either. So I think we're kind of having a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the moment, but it was a hell of a performance. Great way to start the season, so at least we're going into this game in a really good mood after that.
Yeah, and start of the season, you really don't know which type of team you're gonna see, because preseason friendly went quite well. It's true that Lazio didn't play against unbelievable team, but they're playing very well. We saw a very offensive team that scores a lot of goals, but at the same time allowed a lot of goals from other teams. And let's not forget that Sampdoria has still Quagliarella, so you could expect, defense struggling. But in the end, Alistair, you never know how things can go, but really this performance was unexpected, but really, really positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were doing our predictions last week, you said 2-1 and I said 3-1, so we were both expecting us to concede a goal at least. I don't think we're really used to this idea of keeping a clean sheet. So obviously I think the best part of this performance was Lazio's threat in an attacking sense, but to be honest, just to start with, I think it was great to see the team get through a difficult away game without giving anything away. And against a side, like you say, who've got the likes of Quagliarella up front, but quite an attack-minded coach in Di Francesco as well. And also with the fact that Dennis Vavro was swapped for Luis Felipe, having spent most of pre-season being the first choice in that defence. So there were no guarantees necessarily defensively going into that game, but I thought Strakosha had a very good game. And obviously the defence themselves, I think, contributed into the way that the team attacked as well. Did very well to kind of soak up the pressure as it came in and help launch the counter-attacks as well. I don't know about you, but one of the things I really liked yesterday was just how direct the team was. When they won the ball back in defence, they were always looking to get the ball up to their end of the pitch quickly and kind of accurately, and I think that was one of the reasons they got the result.
Yes, and I agree, and I think one of the biggest difference, I think we saw two big differences compared to the Lazio of last year. One is that Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic are back, and they bring an incredible ton of quality to this team in a very important position. Luis Alberto finished with 2 assists, and Milinkovic-Savic had an unbelievable assist. And especially in the second half, when Sampdoria was trying to put a little bit of pressure on Lazio, Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic have been very clever to find the Ciro Immobile all the time free in front of the goalkeeper. So I think that's one of the key of Lazio victory yesterday. And the other thing, obviously, is Lazzari. We have been talking about him since last year, that Lazio needed a player like this, and first match, and he proved why Lazio needed him. It's true that he didn't do an assist, but I thought part of the reason why Lazio won yesterday was thanks to Lazzari, and finally Lazio pushing on the wings.
Yeah, exactly, and he's always available. He's great at getting the team from one side of the pitch to the other. Very direct, good delivery. He did actually, say he didn't get an assist, but he quite easily could have done. He put a great cross onto Luis Alberto's head. I think it was in the first half.
Yep.
So there were opportunities there. You can already see that quality of delivery in action, and that's despite the fact that he's broken his finger and he's playing with a cast on and isn't exactly an ideal condition to be starting a game that we didn't really expect him to start a couple of weeks ago. So to have him and Milinkovic-Savic, let's not forget, two players who we didn't actually expect to be available for this match, and they were two of the standout players in the game. But Milinkovic and Alberto, I think that's... We'll get on to Ciro in a second, but before we do, I think Milinkovic and Alberto, you have to say what a difference it makes. I kind of predicted this in my pre-season kind of preview stuff, but it is good to see it come true that having a full pre-season, getting up to fitness, getting the kind of time in Aronso, training with the team, playing in all the friendly matches, and those guys are looking sharp. They're looking very ready for this season in a way that they really didn't a year ago.
And Alistair, we said it in our previous show, we saw Milinkovic-Savic really, really focused. It looks like, he came to Aronso, as you were saying, finally after last year he missed pretty much all the retiro, and same thing Luis Alberto was trying to recover from an injury. You can see he was really focused, and you can see that he had that mindset to prove everybody wrong, to prove that he's the player we saw 2 years ago. And yes, he had an injury, he skipped a couple of friendly matches. We didn't know if he was able to play against Sampdoria, but even if he wasn't 100% fit, I thought he had a great performance. And as we said, him, Luis Alberto and Correa are the reason why Lazio can be very dangerous this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not many, if any, attacks in Serie A who kind of pose that kind of threat. So the challenge is really finding the balance in the team. I was a little bit concerned to have lost Lucas Leiva for the game yesterday and how that might affect us in transition defensively. But I thought Marco Parolo was a bit of an unsung hero from the game last night, because that's not a role he's used to playing in. We've very rarely seen him used in that position. A couple of times last season he's filled in there, but you can really tell when the value of experience, I suppose, when you move a player like that into that role. Perhaps it's something he might get used in a little bit more as he gets older as well, because there's a bit less running involved than there is in the Mezzala roles. But then again, running has never been a problem for Marco Parolo anyway. But yeah, I thought he did a good job there. It'll be good to get Lucas Leiva hopefully back for the Derby game though. And yeah, it's quite hard to...
Alistair, were you surprised? Because we've been talking about Cataldi, De Vice, Leiva, and then when Leiva is injured, who plays Parolo in that position? Were you surprised from this decision of Simone Inzaghi, or were you expecting something like that?
Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised by the time the team was announced, because there had been suggestions before then that was the way he was going. But I was thinking, during the match, that I wonder how Cataldi feels about this, because he would have been sick of the idea of being a third choice last season. And then this season, at least with Milan Badel heading back to Fiorentina, he did seem to have been bumped up the rankings to a second choice. And then to have an opportunity in front of him for the opening game and not be handed it must have been a source of frustration for him. But then again, I think it comes back to what we've said before when we've talked about Cataldi as a potential alternative to Leiva, is that he's perhaps not capable of really offering you that defensive cover that Inzaghi might have wanted him to give in a game like that. First game of the season, Inzaghi does like his go-to men. He does rely on certain players. He is very loyal to certain players, and Marco Parolo is definitely one of them. So I think he probably went for Parolo more because he knows exactly what to expect from him, than that he doesn't value Cataldi. So I think we will see Cataldi more, and he did come off the bench. But yeah, it was good to see that Parolo can step in and do that job.
Alistair, one thing funny about the match of yesterday is that Lazio won 3-0, but Audero made at least 2 unbelievable saves. And so, to be honest, yesterday could have finished easily 5-0 for Lazio, and it was away at Marassi against Sampdoria. that's an unbelievable achievement. And it's good to see Ciro Immobile scoring 2 goals after finishing, can we say, bad last season? I mean, that's really positive for Lazio and for Ciro Immobile.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was one of my first kind of reactions to this game on Twitter, was to say something similar. I think that we need him to be at his best for the team to function at its best, and so for him to start the season like that isn't, it's not just good for the team to help us get the win, but he's a bit of a confidence player, as we know, and I think that if he begins the season with 2 goals, then he's far more likely to go into the Derby in scoring form than if those saves had prevented him from getting anything, because he could have easily had hat-trick in that game. And yes, it's really not an exaggeration to say it could have been 5 or 6. I mean, Audero made some very good saves, and there were some kind of missed opportunities, kind of half chances as well. I've got a stat though, and it's quite early in the show for it, but it's quite a good one if we're talking about Immobile. He hit his 100th goal in Serie A yesterday, which was his first, so he hit his 100th and 101st goals. But I saw on Opta that of all the Italian players who've debuted in Serie A since 94-95, Vincenzo Montella is the only player who's needed fewer games than Ciro Immobile to reach 100 goals. So Ciro's needed 189 and Montella needed 170, but that tells you a lot about this guy's record in this league. It's pretty impressive.
Absolutely really impressive. And now, I don't want to sound harsh, but I didn't think Correa played really well yesterday, and still Lazio dominated Sampdoria, and Correa was able to score the second goal. I think this team can still improve a lot, especially thinking that Correa didn't play that well. I'm too optimistic, or do you agree with me?
Well, no, definitely. I mean, it's just a case of putting away these chances. I mean, that's the thing. It's quite hard to criticise when you come away with a 3-0 win, but when we're coming away saying, it could have been 5 or 6, you can't help but think back to the tail end of last season, and where our primary frustration was the fact that Lazio were constantly creating a lot of chances, but the main weakness was their inability to put them away. Now, obviously, that wasn't an issue yesterday because 3 of those chances went in, but if you are looking for any sort of flaw in this performance, it would be the fact that quite good chances in that match weren't tucked away. So, yeah, I disagree that Correa didn't have a good game, though. But, I mean, I think the standards set by those around him made him perhaps not stand out as much as the rest of them, because Milinkovic, Alberto, Immobile, all excellent. The only dampener for me was to see Francesco Acerbi pull up and hold on to his hamstring at one point, but I suppose we've had some reassuring noises from Simone Inzaghi and Luis Felipe, both after the game, have said that they didn't think it was too serious, but we don't really know yet. So it is another reminder that we really need that guy, and if anything happens to him, we're quite short of numbers.
Yeah, it was funny, Alison, because Inzaghi has to insist to convince Acerbi to get out. He didn't want to leave the pitch.
Yeah.
And even when his number came out, he wasn't happy at all, and then started running to the bench. But he wasn't happy, and Inzaghi has to explain him why he was leaving the pitch. It was really funny. After, it was already 3-0. Match was pretty much over. There's a derby coming on, and still he didn't want to leave.
Well, that was the thing, is I think Inzaghi said in the press conference after that he can already tell that Acerbi's going to be desperate to even play in the kind of small-sided training matches on Thursday. So I think if there's one thing we know about that guy, it's that he's determined to make every single minute on the pitch. I've got a question, though, from Alexander Mikkelsen I wanted to bring up, first one for tonight. He just says, we played brilliantly yesterday, almost too good to be true. So, was this a performance we won't see more this season, or can we expect this to be the standard Lazio performance this season?
Well, I think this could be the standard. And let's not forget that we had Lulic on the left side, Johnny still cannot play. So and Leva didn't play. So I think really this team can still improve a lot. And as you were saying with Ciro Immobile, I think confidence is the key for this team. So finish the preseason winning all the match helped, starting very well the season. Obviously, it's improving the confidence. Obviously, winning the derby will help even more. But I think this team is really, really, really a good team. We said that this from the beginning of the summer. The weaknesses is that we don't have many options in some key position like the Vice Immobile and in defense. But the starting 11 of Lazio, I think, can win against anybody, any other team. That's why I think it's the reason why Lazio is performing well in the Coppa, less than in Campionato. Because in the Coppa, it's a single match where you win, you go through, you lose, you go out. And as I said, I think Lazio can beat any single team in a day, in a match. But in long terms, when you need even more the use of the bench, then the weaknesses of this team come out. So I think level-wise, the quality of this team is better than Milan, Roma, and Atalanta.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a good time to kind of dwell on the other things that were going on in the first weekend of the season, because you've seen Roma take the lead 3 times against Genoa and be pegged back because some absolutely comical defending going on. Milan were terrible. I don't know how many of our listeners will have watched their game against Udinese, but I did. I think you did as well, Vittorio. And that team is absolutely miles away from being where it needs to be. So hopefully they take a bit longer.
And Udinese is not. Udinese is not one of the surprising team, right? We know that it's not a very good team. So
I predicted Udinese are get relegated this season, so that one's gone out the window quite quickly. But yeah, so that was a really poor result for them. Atalanta obviously had to come back from behind against Spal. They did get a win, and that they've got a really good team, Atalanta. I think their challenge will be more kind of like Lazio, how they juggle the European competition with Serie A. But for them, because they're in the Champions League and it's the first time, I think that they're going to really prioritise making a good go of it in that competition. And on that issue of depth, I think that it is time for us to really prioritise Serie A. I don't think we should be juggling with the team in Serie A matches, looking at Europa League group games or anything like that, or even Coppa Italia quarterfinals or something. I think Serie A, it is the time. This is the time that we really have to focus on getting every maximum points in every single game. And, Inzaghi said similar things himself coming into this season, that, this is the time for us to actually take that next step. We've won a Super Coppa, we've won a Coppa Italia, now's the moment to get in the top 4. And it's not going to be easy. We don't want to get obsessed with the idea of it, but that is the target. So, yeah, I think that, like you say, that first 11 on paper is definitely in the top 4 in Italy, but it's about how you manage that and how you keep those guys all fit.
Yeah, I totally agree. And let's not forget that Fiorentina lost against Napoli. I want to study a little bit more Fiorentina. I'm not convinced it's at the level of Lazio. I'm not convinced if they play Boateng striker that this is going to work. And a lot of people compare Ribéry signing with Klose. I think they're completely different signing. Ribéry is a player that I think is closer to the end that Miro Klose was when he reached Lazio. So, yeah, the only problem is that there's still 1 week of transfer market, and we are pretty sure that Lazio won't sign any other player, while there are rumors that Roma and Milan could sign other key players and improve their team. So we have to wait and see what happened this week. But yeah, the impression is that Lazio is the best team. We know Lazio hasn't been very lucky in the past, so you know that everything can happen in football. But I think that the first day of Serie A proved that Lazio is much better than Milan and Roma. And Atalanta, as you were saying, has a Champions League. So we're going to see how many energy they're going to lose on Champions League matches.
Well, I suppose we'll find out soon enough about Roma anyway. I mean, as hard as it is to believe it, we are now less than a week away from the Derby. 35,000 tickets, Lazio fans, already sold, I think. So it's going to be, as we'd expect, a big crowd, big atmosphere. And yeah, what I wanted to ask you about was picking up on one of the other questions we got about what would be the best way to approach this game, because I mean, Vittorio, some of Roma's defending in that general game was awful. They are a dangerous team when they come forward. I have no doubt about the fact that they are going to cause us a lot more problems than Sampdoria in terms of our defence. But they have real weaknesses at the back as well. And what Stephen Scarpulla asked us was, I'll read it out here, as seen in the latter stages of the Coppa final and in the second half of yesterday's match, Lazio can be breathtaking on the counter-attack. With the primary strategy against Fonseca's men this weekend, he's asking if that would be the best strategy against Fonseca's team, or to take it to them, take it right to their Swiss cheese defence, he says.
That's a good question. I think Inzaghi can choose both options. We know that Roma is a very offensive-minded team, especially with this new coach, and at the same time, the problem with Roma is not only the defenders. I think having Cristante playing as central midfielder who has to defend the defenders, I think it's quite complicated. It's not his job. He's not good in that. So that's why I think Lazio can win that match, because Roma hasn't got a Lucas Leiva player that can help that weak defense. So his through counter-attack can be a good option, but if you give the ball to Roma strikers, that can be very, very dangerous. I think the best chance for Lazio to win is to keep the ball and attack without allowing Roma to have any chances.
Yeah, well, I think the encouraging thing for me has been that, yes, Lazio can be devastating on the counter. We've got real pace and precision as well. The fact that we've got Alberto and Milinkovic in deeper positions, and they can hit those long passes and find the target, as they did yesterday, both of them with assists to find Immobile. We know that those transitions can be really quick, and that we've got the guys up front who can get there and finish them off. But I think that this is more than simply a counter-attacking team. I do think that also there's so much ability in that team that we've been able to see in pre-season and a little yesterday as well. The fact that we can string together these kind of intricate passing moves, little triangles around the edge of the opposition box, and now we've got guys like Lazzari in the wide positions that we can always work it out to, who can get quality deliveries in there as well. So I think, yes, the more space the better for that team to attack, but on the other hand, I don't think it's as simple as this team being a one-trick pony. I think that there's more than enough about the talent we have in midfield and an attack that this can be a counter-attacking team, but it can also be a dominant team as well.
Alistair, as we have a new sponsor, can I ask you if you bought Lazzari in your fantasy football team?
I didn't, because I picked it while he was injured, but I did pick Alberto and Correa, so I'm pretty happy with that.
To our listener, let's not forget that there's the Lazio Lounge League, right, Alistair? Do you want to give more info about it?
Yeah, so we set up a league on the Fantasy Serie A website where it's kind of for Lazio Lounge listeners, well, it's for anyone who cares to join, really, to be honest. I think there's a good maybe 15 of us at the moment, so we do need more people. And all you need to do is, if you set up a team, you can go on to the Leagues tab and you can just click on Join a League, and you just have to insert the code, which we'll send out on social media later on. We've sent out a couple of times already. But yeah, I've not got off to the best start, so if you fancy something to gloat at me about, then this is a good opportunity. Although I think I've got the best team name, if I'm honest. Have you seen it?
No, I didn't.
Marco van Bastos.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I feel like I just retire after that and don't actually play the game.
Yeah, so you have an excuse why you didn't win it. Alistair, talking about picking players, were you surprised by the fact that Inzaghi didn't pick Vavro against Sampdoria?
Yeah, it kind of was, because obviously he's been used so much in pre-season, and also Luis Felipe, who started in his place, has been struggling with injury problems and fitness issues as well. So I think that does tell us a lot, though, that selection. And also even his presentation told us a lot. We already kind of knew that he's had a few struggles in pre-season as he gets used to playing with the new team. We also knew from our own chat with Danish Fitty, with Klaus, that he is going to need time to adapt to this. And that's fair enough. I don't judge him for that at all. It's perfectly understandable. But also Iglitari at his presentation more or less said the same thing. Like, it's impossible for someone within a few weeks to immediately settle in. So I think looking back, that perhaps the suggestions were there that this might happen. But I think it's also a great opportunity for Luis Felipe, because he needs to up his game. This is a really big season for him. He's got a lot of talent, we all know that. He's also quite fragile, but we need him to turn that talent into consistency. And what better way of doing it, really, than bringing in someone who's really going to challenge him for that spot. So I'm hoping that not only can Vavro's arrival strengthen the defence, but it can bring out the best in Luis Felipe.
I thought he played well yesterday, to be honest with you. I thought he had a great performance, and it was even good to see him playing in a central position when Acerbi came out. And I think Inzaghi will keep this defense against Roma. I don't see Vavro starting in the derby. So even though Rado didn't play as well as we was expecting, he didn't play that bad. So I think this will be the starting defense even in the Rome derby.
Can I just bring something up to depress everyone a little bit?
Well, if you have to.
Just that, don't get me wrong, this was the perfect start, perfect performance in the opening day. But the whole kind of thing about the form book going out the window on the Derby day, there is really something to it. And I think that last season kind of proved that. Because going into the first Derby, we'd won 4 games in a row, and then we lost. And then going into the second Derby, we'd just been beaten by Genoa. I looked back at it earlier and saw that we'd actually lost 3 out of the last 5 games going into that, and then we hammered them 3-0. So it is an unpredictable match. And I don't think necessarily that the events of the first weekend should allow us to get too carried away and expect us to tear them apart, because that's don't forget that that's obviously a Roma team that's conceded 3 quite soft goals, but it's also a Roma team that's scored 3 goals, the same amount that we managed. So it could be quite an entertaining game anyway.
And your point is valid. We know that the derby, it's a different game from all the others, and often in a derby the weakest team win, even if it's coming out of a negative streak. So yeah, player has to focus, because in the derby everything can happen, especially in the Rome derby. So that's why it would be really important to win it, because stay on top of the table with 6 points. If you compare it with last year, when Lazio after 2 matches was at 0 points after losing against Napoli and Juventus, I think this would be really positive. But I don't think we have to believe that after Lazio beat Sampdoria, then automatically Lazio will win against Rome. No, it's going to be a different team completely.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm thinking, when the fixtures first came out, I think we were kind of surprised, a bit shocked that the derby's our first home game of the season. But now, are you starting to think this actually could be a really good thing? Because like you say, if we win this match, all of a sudden we're 2 games into the season and we're 5 points clear of Roma. That's already a big gap over a team who we're supposed to be competing with for 4th place. So the fixture list could actually, I suppose only if a win comes is the one big clause on this, but could turn out to be a good thing.
Yes, and one of the biggest question mark, if you remember, was the injury situation, because when the calendar came out, we didn't know how many players would be fit to play, because Milinkovic Savic was injured, Marusic was out, and so on. So our biggest question mark was that. And now we know that all these Lazio players are fit. Marusic played yesterday, Lukaku is recovering. On the other side, we have to say that we see that Roma is far, far away from where Fonseca wants them to be. They still didn't understand what the manager wants. There's a lot of new players they signed that still haven't played because they are not ready. So probably it could be a positive to play against Roma in the second day, because you can see that the team is struggling to understand the manager. The manager, let's not forget, is that his first season in Serie A. It's a completely different world compared to Russian league or all the other leagues he played for. So he has to adapt as well. So, and we saw it yesterday against Genoa that, again, it's not a team fighting for the Champions League spot who scored 3 times against Roma. This tells you that there are problems there. And so, yeah, this could be an advantage. But let's not forget that the team who arrives, who is not considered a favorite in the derby, often finds a way to win it. So, yeah, let's not get too confident that Lazio will definitely win the derby. We can say Lazio is probably the favorite, but this is not always a positive thing to say.
Yeah, we've been burned before.
Absolutely.
I suppose one of the other great uncertainties as well is still around Johnny Vittorio. It's what we didn't want to happen at the start of this season, and it's ended up happening, was that we weren't able to pick him in the squad for the first weekend of the season because his transfer still not being made official. So do you see it being resolved anytime soon?
Well, the problem is it looks like FIFA, instead of giving the transfer directly to Lazio, gave time to Malaga to prove that they are right. So I believe this will take a couple of weeks. So I think maybe he's going to be able to play for Lazio after the break, but I don't think he's going to be able to play for the derby. So we really have to hope that Lukaku or someone else will be able to play in the derby to give, a little bit of rest to Lulic in the second half.
I suppose the other big news this week has been about Felipe Caicedo. It's been talked about all summer, but Felipe Caicedo seems to have agreed an extension. Simone Inzaghi said in his press conference that Caicedo's agreed an extension, and it's been a long time coming. So it's quite good to actually get that resolved, even if it's not actually been confirmed yet. It should be supposedly in the next 48 hours or so, and apparently the compromise that was reached was that instead of giving him a big salary hike up from 1.8 to 2.5 million a year, they've raised it to just 2 million, but they've given him an extra year, so he'll be on a contract until 2022. So are you happy to hear that that's getting sorted out?
I was still wishing to sign Simeone, to be honest with you, especially seeing that he didn't start for Fiorentina on Saturday. He didn't come in. And I think he's another player who's willing to prove everybody's wrong. So, and he has a huge link with Lazio. So I was wishing to see Simeone. But obviously having Caicedo, it would be very positive. I hope he's going to be able to play against Roma in the derby, but I'm still not 100% convinced.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's good. It's better to have him than not to have him, because we don't really have anyone else. But it was quite interesting as well to see Inzaghi kind of openly say, we're monitoring the market for ways of reinforcing the attack. And if something can be done to improve it by the end of the window, then we'll do it, basically. Which you don't really see happen all that often, is being quite so candid about what's going on in the market. The problem is that things have gone rather quiet. I don't think that necessarily really matters with Lazio, because a lot of stuff gets written which is completely unfounded and there's no truth in it anyway. But the market closes a week today, so if they are hoping to get a new striker in, I suppose we're running out of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, Simeone is probably at the moment the best solution, because Fiorentina wants him out, he's not playing, and I think Lazio could be a good solution for him. Obviously, he knows he won't be a starter, but he will get his chances, I believe. So, yeah, if I was Tare, I was trying to push already.
The problem with Simeone is that he doesn't fit the profile of player that Inzaghi wants, though, which is a target man. He wants a big physical striker who he can throw on and get crosses into, basically. And most of the strikers that Lazio have been linked with and supposedly are looking at fit that kind of profile, whereas Simeone's not that kind of player. So I suppose I can see what you mean. He's a decent option as someone to bring in, but then again, it's not really, if it's not what Inzaghi's asking for, I can't imagine what they're going to end up getting him.
Yeah, but I don't see other option available of a certain level. So I don't know. We're going to see what's happening. If something's going to happen, because we're still not 100% sure that someone's going to come.
We have actually signed a player this week, we should mention. We've signed Poland under-21 midfielder Patrick Zychek. Do you have any idea how close I was to getting that right or not?
Absolutely not.
Dziczek. So, yeah, I mean, I think another prospect anyway, played for the under-21 Polish side, which is obviously a pretty decent production line coming through that country at the moment of young players. So he's gone straight to Salernitana on loan, so we're not going to see him, but I suppose things are happening in the background.
Yeah, and you have to say that this season Tare signed a lot of young, interesting players. He pretty much moved them all to Salernitana. So we're going to keep an eye on Salerno this year, I think, obviously. The youngster that came from Chievo, Chiline, I think something like that, played again yesterday very well. He's really promising. And yeah, we're going to see how Tares planned this thing. If they're going to work fine with Salerno, they're going to come back to Rome, or I don't know. We're going to see. But yeah, I like this type of plan. One thing.
At least they're in safe hands with Ventura, right?
Yeah. Well, he was famous to not be shy to try youngsters. So we're going to see. One thing funny is that the defender we talked last week from Partizan, he went to Rome to do the medicals and he failed. So he's going to do them again.
Yeah, I think there was something came up about a heart condition. Is that right?
There are a lot of rumors. I think one of them was saying that after playing the Europe League, he was a little bit tired, and so that's why he failed the test. But he's going to, I think, Monday or Tuesday, he was supposed to redo the test, so we're going to get an answer soon.
Yeah. And yeah, we talked about him last week, so we don't have to do that again. But that would be another interesting one to keep an eye on. I mean, there's no shortage of kind of lone players to keep an eye on. One final thing I wanted to mention as well was just how great it was to see Samp-Lazio on the touchline with Bologna in Verona this weekend. I mean, we mentioned this earlier on when he was diagnosed with leukemia, but it was pretty amazing to see only about a month later, and he's been in hospital up until I think 2 days before the game, and there he was on the touchline. So yeah, fantastic warrior spirit that guy's got.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big surprise, and I guess everybody was happy to see him there. The battle is still not over, but it was positive to see him there, and so we wish him all the best.
Of course, of course.
Alistair, so Derby in a week. I still don't believe it. Do you think Inzaghi is going to change something, or do you think we're going to see the same 11 we saw against Sampdoria?
Well, I would be surprised if a fully fit Lucas Leiva is not put back into that team in the place of Parolo. I suppose that depends if he is fully fit, but already he was, he did travel with the team. He was on the bench against Sampdoria. He is training, so I would expect him to start in that role because it is his role, if we're honest. And then beyond that, it really depends. I really hope there's nothing wrong with Acerbi. There doesn't appear to be, but you just never quite know until the training reports start to come out. So yeah, I mean, the thing is that team essentially picks itself now. The only difference we can wait on is once Johnny's back in the squad and available again, if he can challenge Lulic for a starting spot. But up until that point, I think that the only real kind of competitions you've got in this team are who starts in the right side of defence, whether it's Vavro or Felipe, and then beyond that, maybe that's it really. Who might start a left wing back? Otherwise, I think you're pretty much choosing that team.
I think last year the biggest question mark is it going to happen like last year where Inzaghi was rotating the defenders very often, even though Bastos played well, then the week afterwards was Wallace starting, etc. Or will Inzaghi stick with this lineup till an injury or bad performance arrive and he decide to change? Because last year it was even unpredictable to understand who was starting and why he was starting or keeping rotating the team. Do you expect this to happen even this year?
I think there probably will be a certain amount of that, yeah, but I would expect that to happen more after the international break when the Europa League games start and the fixtures start piling up. I think at this point it makes sense to keep a settled side and try and build a little bit of consistency, because it's quite hard to build that consistency if you are chopping and changing the team all the time. Whereas if you do, in general, if you can name a starting 11, off the top of your heads, it's quite a good sign because it shows consistency in selection, and generally that means that the team that you are picking have a good understanding with one another. So I think Felipe as well has done more than enough against Sampdoria to earn a starting spot against Roma. He's played well in some big games before for us. So yeah, I think that it wouldn't be the right thing to do to chuck Vavro into that game. We did talk about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, whether or not, how you handle the integration of Vavro if you throw him straight in at the start and risk him having a bad start and his confidence going down, or if you leave it a bit later. So it does seem that Inzaghi's gone down the latter route.
Yeah, I think the season of Vavro could start after the break. I think we're playing against Spal after the break, so that would be a soft test for him to adapt to the Italian football and would allow Lazio to have, a more ready team playing against Sampdoria and Roma. That are two very important matches. Before wrapping up things, Alistair, man of the match for you of Sampdoria Lazio?
I don't know. There's so many contenders, which is a good feeling. I mean, Ciro got the 2 goals, obviously, which was fantastic. But I feel like in a way he could have even got more. Alberto was terrific. Sergei was great. I'd probably give it to Alberto for getting the 2 assists, and I think just generally he's looking better and better in that role in the deeper position from midfield. And yeah, he had a terrific game, and he was so important in what I was talking about before, in that speed of transition and moving the team from defence to attack. He's such a crucial player in getting that game plan to work. So yeah, go with him.
Yeah, I agree. I would pick Luis Alberto as well. His 2 assists were terrific, and I thought the biggest difference between him and Milinkovic Savic and the other key players of Lazio is that he has played consistently well in Sampdoria's match, while Milinkovic Savic didn't play very well in the first half, improved in the second. Ciro, as you were saying, had a couple of good chances through that on two. Aldeiro made unbelievable save, but on one of them in the first half he could have scored, and he didn't. Obviously he scored twice, so we're really happy about him, and he had a very good performance. Strakosha played well, Parolo was good, Lazzari was one of my candidates. To see finally a winger putting all those crosses in the box, it was so good to see. But I think the performance of Luis Alberto was the key for these 3 points. And, I think it's big boost for him as well after a season where we didn't see the real Luis Alberto. Having him back is really important for this team, especially because next Sunday there is a derby who's going to be played at 6 o'clock before all the other matches. So every other team will watch it, and it's going to be really important for Lazio to win it, to be still on top of the league, even because there's Juventus Napoli playing, so one of them will obviously lose points, maybe both of them, so it would be cool to see Lazio ahead all alone in the Serie A, but maybe we're going too far away with our mind. We have to focus on the next match. Very, very difficult. Let's not forget it, because yes, Roma didn't start very well, but the derby is still derby. So, Alistair, your prediction?
Well, I went in with confidence last week, so I might as well do the same thing this week. I think there's going to be goals in this game. I think it could be 3-2 Lazio.
I'm going again with 2-1 Lazio.
I think it's safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it's gonna be positive again. Alistair, again, thank you very much. Thanks for everybody for listening to this show. Remember, you can follow us on iTunes. You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. You can find us on Spreaker. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on our YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there. And remember that you can support Lazio Lounge becoming a patron on our Patreon page, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts from just $2 a month, so it's less than a cappuccino a month. So if you like the show, if you're a Lazio fan, or you simply love Serie A, well, this could be your podcast. So if you like it, please rate and review. And if you want to support us, we really appreciate that. We have our shop if you want to see new merchandising, obviously Lazio related. That is very cool. I wear it here and people likes it. So, go and have a look. The prices are really good. Thank you again, Alistair. We're going to talk about again after the derby.
Can't wait. See you then.
Bye, guys. Have a nice rest of the week. Bye.